Hello everyone and welcome back to the 100k budget fuel challenge. I don't have anything else to say, so let's get into it. So, for round 3, we're gonna be racing 3 laps around Lake Maggiore circuit. However, considering that there's 26 of you now instead of there being 24 of you, safe to say that's basically a recipe for uneven heats. Fuel consumption set to 15x, bottom 2 of each heat is eliminated. Or at least that's the case, but only if no one runs out of fuel or goes to the pits in the said races. And with everything explained, let's get on with the said races. So, for the first heat, we have Dromenas Dromenani, Terra Hawkizard, Agato, Zetsu, Gregor, Thunderstorm Gaming, Pin, Julie Canoto, and Freddy Fuelbear. The race begins with what looks like Agato immediately overtaking Dromenas Dromenani and Terra Hawkizard. However, he is not the only one who overtook the Super Beast and the Golf. If anything, by the time he got to the first corner, Dromenas Dromenani has been overtaken by most of the grid. That includes Thunderstorm Gaming, Gregor, Julie Canoto, and Pin. As you can see, overtaking the Golf was not a problem for them. Nor was it a problem for Freddy Fuelbear, who, thanks to the C7 Corvette overtaking the Golf, he didn't get overtaken by those 4 that I just mentioned. Not only that, but he also overtakes the front wheel Fury hosting duo, Zetsu and Terra, which, if you're wondering, Terra has been overtaken by the 4C. While Terra now tries to hold off the others, Agato is in the lead currently. But that may not last very long because Freddy Fuelbear closed in the gap between the WRX. Not only that, but Gregor seems to be winning against Pin's GTO because, well, Pin wasn't really able to close in the gap between Gregor. Thunderstorm Gaming's other Scirocco in the meantime is trying to close in the gap between the Super Beast. But unlike the last race, it looks like Terra is actually putting up a fight. Of course, I don't mean any offense when saying that about Terra. Further in the front, it looks like Julie Canoto successfully overtook Zetsu and Freddy Fuelbear successfully overtook Agato. Not realizing that getting far ahead is not how you prolong your elimination this time around. But while the C7 is already in the lead, Julie Canoto, on the other hand, is not. Heading through this uphill section, Thunderstorm Gaming tries to overtake Terra but gets slowed down by him instead. Which means he not only lost time to the Super Beast, but he also got overtaken by Gregor's Scirocco. But unfortunately for Pin, that was not enough for him to overtake. Terra closes in the gap between Zetsu and Julie Canoto closes in the gap between Agato. As for Freddy Fuelbear, it looks like the C7 Corvette is having urges to go to the pits. However, the spectator pickup is not gonna let that happen. Nor does it let Agato and Julie Canoto disqualify themselves. It looks like Terra is also trying to pit alongside Pin. And all these cars slamming into the spectator pickup results in Pin going to the pits and therefore disqualifying himself from the tournament. But while everybody else already avoided going into the pits, Terra didn't, which results in Dromenas Dromenani overtaking him. And yes, Pin eliminating himself means that the bottom 2 is eliminated factor no longer applies. Anyways, the aftermath of all of that tomfoolery is that Agato and Julie Canoto have been overtaken by the 2 Sciroccos and Zetsu, as they, and Dromenas Dromenani's Golf, funnily enough, were the only ones that didn't want to go to the pits. So far, it looks like out of the 2 Sciroccos, Gregor is the one coming out on top. And after the not being able to win because he's the host thing of 2000 Spirits, and the not so fortunate elimination of 500 horsepower, it looks like Zetsu is finally getting some proper spotlight. As you can see from the replay camera, it looks like Zetsu is winning against the Scirocco's and the WRX. So is Freddy Fuelbear, who quite surprisingly did not get affected by going to the pits at all. Either way, back in the front pack of the grid, it looks like Agato is closing in the gap between Thunderstorm Gaming. Although this is another one of those cases where he is in overtaking distance but isn't really able to overtake. Yeah, you can say Thunderstorm Gaming already proved his point of him not giving up easily. But that doesn't mean he's gonna win. Remember, this is only the second lap. Either way, Gregor seems to be trying to close in the gap between Zetsu. Meanwhile, in the back, it looks like Terra finally broke the Super Beast out of wanting to go to the pits. No spotlight for Pin because he's already disqualified. Dromnas Dromnani is just chilling, and so is Julie Kanoto. And Gregor successfully closed in the gap between Zetsu. However, it looks like overtaking him is not as easy. As you can see, Zetsu is not giving up easily either. Meanwhile, Freddy Fuelbear is chilling with the golden trophy, but I guess not for much longer because the C7 Corvette wants to go to the pits. However, he can't do that because once again the spectator pickup is there to stop him. Zetsu doesn't feel the need to go to the pits, but the same cannot be said about the two Scirocco's and Agato, completely slamming into the pickup, resulting in it missing Julie Kanoto and letting him get disqualified. But karma is in fact real because not only did Thunderstorm Gaming also end up disqualifying himself, but Agato's WRX ended up losing a lot of time due to it being stuck there. The aftermath of all this is that Zetsu is now in the lead with Freddy Fuelbear trying to overtake him back, but ended up running out of fuel in the process, eliminating himself. Even though all of that just happened, luckily Agato is still in the running. But I guess not for long because the WRX's fuel tank is glowing red. He heads through this section of the track across the downhill, and into this braking zone he goes with him trying to preserve fuel. But it is unfortunately too late for that, and the WRX runs out of fuel, meaning Agato is eliminated. In the meantime, Terra's Super Beast has made it through lap 2, with his fuel tank also glowing red. But I guess the one positive of him being stuck in the pit entry earlier is that he was able to prevent himself from running out before others. But it wasn't much help because the Super Beast still gets eliminated by fuel. In the meantime, Zetsu's already close to finishing the final lap with Gregor not far behind him. But unlike Zetsu, Gregor's fuel tank is starting to glow red also. I can easily tell this is gonna be a really close finish for the Scirocco. During all that, Dromnas Dromnani was just taking a leisurely drive this whole time. Back with the front runners of the race, it looks like Zetsu is gonna be crossing the finish line and advancing to the next round. As for Gregor, his Scirocco is really close to the finish line with him trying his best, but unfortunately his car runs out of fuel before he can cross the finish line. Meaning the only other person that's still in the running is Dromnas Dromnani in the Golf. But just so I don't drag things out, I cut to the clip of him crossing the finish line. Because he is the only other one to do so before running out or going to the pits. For the second heat, we have Stolus Enthusiast, Marionette, Marzo, Reagan, Cassidy J, Vit, Chotka, and Green Turismo J. And so the race begins. Right away, you can immediately tell that Reagan successfully overtook Stolus Enthusiast and Marionette. But he is not alone, as Chotka and Marzo also try to overtake them. While that is happening, even though it took them way longer to overtake him, Cassidy J and Green Turismo J made it past the FTO. Which means Stolus Enthusiast is already last. Wow, that was quick. While that is happening, it looks like Martso, in fact, was not successful at overtaking Marionette. If anything, it looks like Viz successfully overtook him, also finding an opportunity on Marionette Suzuki Swift and overtaking it, claiming the podium spot, while Chotka is now trying to take first place away from Reagan. And as you can see, the Riyamemiya RX-7 is closing in the gap really quickly. In fact, just as quickly as Viz was able to pull away from Marionette. Things continue getting worse for Martso because not only was he overtaken by Green Turismo J, but now he is also being chased down by Cassidy J. But luckily for him, it doesn't look like the Focus ST really closed in the gap between him yet. Although this long straightaway section is here to change that. Nothing's really changed on this side of things, but on Chotka's side of things, it looks like she successfully found an overtaking opportunity on Reagan's pits, successfully claiming herself the lead, with her, I guess, now being off to pull away from Reagan. Further in the back, thanks to this replay camera, I can see that Marionette has been overtaken by Martso and Cassidy J. The RX-7 and the pits continue chilling as it looks like Viz is now being chased down by Green Turismo J Civic. And given he got overtaken, I guess now you can say Marionette is Stola's enthusiast friend. As you can see, the Focus ST is easily gapping the Swift. Martso's DS3 is chilling, and so is Green Turismo J Civic, as it looks like Viz is now closing in the gap between Reagan. But before anything else can happen for the frontrunners, Chotka is going to the pits, even though the RX-7 is really not able to. Reagan, on the other hand, pushes the pickup out of the way, resulting in Viz disqualification. But he gets instant karma as his car drives around in a circle, resulting in his disqualification as well. Not only that, but the spectator pickup being pushed far into the pits also results in Green Turismo J and Cassidy J getting disqualified, meaning we are already down to our last 4 competitors of the race. And funnily enough, those 4 ended up being competitors which would get no spotlight otherwise: Martso, Chotka, Marionette, and Stola's enthusiast. Either way, the aftermath of Chotka wanting to go to the pits is that Martso managed to overtake her, proving that Martso can indeed pull up a fight when he needs to. Meanwhile, Marionette and Stola's enthusiast are trying to keep up with the two of them, but not really succeeding. Through this downhill and into the uphill, as Chotka tries to overtake the DS3 but isn't really succeeding at the moment. Once again, you may be in overtaking distance, but that doesn't immediately guarantee an overtake. And that is a statement budget fuel races continue to prove once again. She tried to overtake, or at least tried to find an overtaking opportunity anyway, but once again failed horribly at it. However, things may change on this high-speed section as she was close to overtaking, but nope, she didn't. I guess the third time really isn't the charm. Either way, through this straightaway section we make it once again, as it looks like Chotka finally succeeds in overtaking the DS3, finding an overtaking opportunity as she built up speed and gladly taking it on the braking zone, allowing her to claim first place once again. Marionette is just chilling high up position-wise, as I guess those 4 eliminations from earlier allowed him to claim the bronze trophy. And Stola's enthusiast is not last either. Instead, he is 4th. But unfortunately, that still does not change the fact that he is far behind his competition, which from what I can tell doesn't really seem to be giving up anytime soon. Meanwhile, in the front of the grid, it looks like Martso is getting really gapped by the RX-7. While Martso's trying not to get gapped even more, Chotka's fuel tank is starting to glow red. And as a result of this, I mean, fair enough, the Riyamemiya's instinct is to go to the pits and refuel. However, she is immediately stopped by the spectator pickup. And so is Marzo, who also tries to pit in. Closing off lap 2 with Marionette also trying to pit. Thankfully not, because the spectator pickup once again prevents that from happening. Even though Marzo tried to overtake Chotka back, he didn't really succeed in doing that. And she heads off into the third and final lap with not much fuel left. And as a result of that, the Riamemia RX-7 ends up running out, eliminating her from the tournament. So I guess you can say that Marzo ended up winning in the long run, as he is the one who claims first place now. Zooming off into the front, as it looks like the DS3 is now trying to reach the finish line and cross it. Through the downhill speed section he goes. In the meantime, Marionette closes in the gap between the now eliminated RX-7 and overtakes it, allowing the Suzuki Swift to claim the silver medal. Through the downhill section and into the braking zone, with what looks like Marionette now also running low on fuel. This may be pretty close, I'm not gonna lie. And let's not forget about Stolus Enthusiast in the FTO. He is also still in this, easily overtaking the RX-7 and claiming the podium spot. Alrighty then, the first section of the track is out of the way, now they gotta make it through the second one. So far it looks like Marionette and Marzo are easily making their way through it. Something which I also forgot to note is that just like Marionette, Marzo is also kinda running low on fuel. I can easily guarantee you that it's gonna be really close for these two. See, Marionette's fuel tank is glowing red now, and so is Marzo's. The DS3 reaches the end of the second section of the track and is now heading towards the third and final one. Will they get to finish before running out? That's the question that I'm asking currently. It looks like there is a possibility of that because Marzo is easily making it through the uphill part. Come on guys, you three can do this. You're on the final section of the track now. Marionette's also making it through this uphill part. Needless to say, he also cleared it pretty well, clearing it and reaching the very final corners of the track and building up speed while reaching it, but unfortunately it was not enough to finish before running out. Marionette is eliminated. As for Marzo, the DS3 is really close to finishing the race. He heads through the final corner of the circuit, now trying to build up speed heading into the finish line, but unfortunately, just like in Gregor's case, he runs out before he can cross the finish line. Which means the only person that's in the running now is Stolus Enthusiast. He casually makes it through the final section of the track, reaching the final corner no problem in the FTO, and successfully making it past the said corner with no problems. He now tries to build up speed heading into the finish line, but gets slowed down a bit by the now eliminated Suzuki Swift. And just like that, after everything that happened, Stolus Enthusiast is the only person to cross the finish line before running out or going to the pits. For the third heat, we have Tendril, Roxy, Leyland, Chudmobile, Spike 1999, Oatmeal Scucolati, Ferrari GT Sport, Dry Riser Inlet, A-Lord GT, and Kirby. Off the start line we go. As soon as the race started, all the cars pack up in the front trying to overtake Tendril. And because this is in GT4, almost all the overtaking attempts were successful, with the only ones not succeeding immediately being the back markers, which in this case are Kirby and A-Lord GT. Still, they overtake the 205 because it's not like they only have one opportunity of overtaking throughout the entire race. As for how others are doing, Chudmobile was not only overtaken by Spike 1999 and Oatmeal Scucolati, but A-Lord GT as well. And also Kirby's M2 because it successfully found an overtaking opportunity no problem. We are 3 wide as it looks like Spike 1999 and A-Lord GT successfully overtake Roxy Leyland. While that is happening, Dry Riser Inlet and Ferrari GT Sport are trying to zoom off into the distance, with them actually succeeding in doing so. I'm actually kinda surprised about that. Either way, back with the not front markers, it looks like Spike 1999 is trying to hold off A-Lord GT and Kirby, resulting in a little battle between the three red cars. Roxy is trying to hold off the A45 of Oatmeal Skookolaris, and Chudmobile is being left behind alongside Tendril, which is a really unfortunate case for the Mini and the 205 GTI. What's also noteworthy is that even though the Aventime tried to hold off Oatmeal Skookolari, Roxy didn't really succeed in doing that. Back with the red cars, it looks like Spike 1999 has been overtaken by A-Lord GT. Not only that, but Kirby is now in the Civic's overtaking distance. They easily make it through the uphill part, with Spike 1999 easily making sure Kirby's M2 does not overtake him. As for the front runners, it looks like Dry Riser Inlet and Ferrari have built a huge lead over everyone that's behind them. Heading into the second lap, it doesn't look like Ferrari is going to the pits yet, but the same, however, cannot be said about Dry Riser Inlet and their C4 Corvette, because they have an urge to go to the pits. However, the spectator pickup is there to stop that urge. Heading into here, it looks like Kirby purposefully smacks the pickup hard, resulting in his own elimination alongside Oatmeal Skookolaris, Roxy's, and Chudmobiles. Meaning we are already down to our final 5 competitors of the race due to his "I'm playing the game" ass move. Spike 1999 also wanted to go to the pits, but thankfully he did not. And after being stuck here for a while ramming into the wall, the Civic gets rid of the urges to go to the pits and moves on with the race, because that fact alone resulted in him losing all of his positions and falling down to 5th place. Yes, he even got overtaken by Tendril. Either way, that does not stop the Civic from trying to regain that time. While he is now trying to do that, let's check back on the others real quick. It looks like Tendril is just chilling in 4th place now, although he is still far behind his competition that's in the front right now. Speaking of which, A-Lord GT successfully catches back up to Dry Riser Inlet. Hell, the C4 Corvette is actively losing time to the 370Z as we speak. However, overtaking distance has not been reached. But that does not stop A-Lord GT from trying to reach it. As you can see, the Z34 is just not giving up. The battle between the two of them continues heading into the straightaway. Meanwhile, in the back, Tendril is just chilling, as it doesn't look like Spike 1999 closed in the gap between him yet. Either way, on the set straightaway, the 370Z and the C4 Corvette are very evenly matched, even to the point of absolutely nothing changing between the two. Dry Riser Inlet is still in 2nd place and A-Lord GT is still 3rd. And heading into the 3rd and final section of the track, it doesn't look like anything is gonna be changing. Meanwhile, in the front, Ferrari's KTM has been building a massively huge gap over everyone. Honestly, this may or may not indicate that he's gonna become a 3-time finalist. But before he can even be sure that that's gonna be the case, the KTM is actually trying to pit in now. However, the spectator pickup is there to stop him from doing that. Either way, back with the other top dogs, it looks like A-Lord GT has actually ran out of fuel. Therefore, the 370Z is now eliminated. Dry Riser Inlet also wants to take their car into the pits like on the previous lap, but once again, they cannot. There's not really much of a point talking about A-Lord GT given he's already out. But regardless, someone that will definitely be there heading into the 3rd and final lap is Tendril in the 205. And unlike the others, Tendril doesn't feel the need to go to the pits. And unfortunately for him, it doesn't look like the same can be said about Spike 1999. His Civic tries to enter the pits once again, and once again gets stopped by the spectator pickup. But the difference between the previous lap is that he doesn't get stuck in front of the pit barrier for as long as the previous lap. In the meantime, quite surprisingly, it looks like Tendril has been closing in the gap between Dry Riser Inlet, who, if you're wondering, their fuel tank is glowing red now. However, that doesn't really seem to be a concern for the C4 Corvette because it speeds off and ends up running out of fuel in the process, meaning Dry Riser Inlet is eliminated. 3 competitor cars remain. And that fact alone means that the 205 GTI is actually a step ahead of the C4 Corvette, which is now eliminated, like I said earlier. Either way, Tendril is doing pretty decently, I would say. Pretty much just cruising through the first section of the track and heading into the second one without a single worry in the world. And the exact same thing can be said about Spike 1999, who is also doing pretty decently. Although the Civic is getting pretty low on fuel right now. Yeah, safe to say this is gonna be yet another close call for the competitors. In the meantime, Ferrari made it to the final section of the track with his fuel tank glowing red. Fortunately for him, however, the KTM easily makes it through the uphill part, successfully climbing up the said hill and heading into the final corners of the track. He easily cruises through the said final corners of the track without a single struggle. What can I say, the 3-time finalist thing might actually happen. And just like that, the KTM is now onto the final corner of the track. He easily makes it to the final corner in the KTM and easily makes it through it. All he needs to do now is just cross the finish line and he'll be advancing to the next round. Come on, KTM, you're so close. You're so close. Nearly there. Nearly. Ferrari is out of fuel. And a couple seconds after that, Spike 1999 also runs out. And as much as I feel bad for the two of them and would want to end off things right here, I'm afraid there's still one person left in the running. The 205 GTI easily climbed up the hill, and it is easily making its way into the final corner of the track, easily reaching the said corner and having absolutely no problem with taking it. Tendril now speeds off into the finish line without even being close to running out. With that, out of the 9 competitors that were in this race, it looks like the Peugeot 205 GTI is the one that came out on top in the end. And that's about it for round 3. Now, I was planning on there being more rounds in this tournament, but it looks like the fuel consumption set to 15x really cut it short. Which means I have no other choice but to conclude the event in the very next round. Anyways, if you enjoyed, which I know you did, like the video, and maybe even consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the grand finale.